welcome to Media Maestro at WHSK. This is Reed at Commonwealth University, Bloomsburg. On this special episode, I'll be discussing how digital tools, and specifically more, the internet, have changed the teaching and learning processes. What got me interested in this topic was thinking about how much information is available on the internet for everyone to discover and search for. Thinking about this made me realize how teachers and students must have felt when the digital technology first became more present in society. If you can look up and read about anything you ever wanted to know about, would the value of teachers and schools be seen as pointless? I was lucky to have gotten interviews with people to discuss this topic more deeply and thoroughly. My first interview is with Leanne Bresnak, a senior at Commonwealth University, Bloomsburg. She's someone I thought would provide an interesting point of view being towards the end of their own college career. She is someone I thought would be an interesting person to discuss with since she's towards the end of her own college career. So now I present the interview in question. So when did you first start to use online resources for schoolwork? Like even like before college, just like when did you start to like use them more in your like schoolwork for anything?
Probably in like middle school. I used it to like for just like simple like homework stuff.
Yeah.
And then it did get more useful in high school when like COVID and everything happened, and I had to basically go completely online, and that kind of just helped me prepare for when I used it in college as well.
Yeah, that was about the same thing for me too. It was around middle school, and we started to use more. I think it was because more like maybe like responsibilities, because we were able to like, get a better understanding of it. So I feel like that's around that time is usually when people start to, at least people our age, get to have this idea of like how to use the internet and like the advantages to it. So how do you think the internet has changed the way you learn and gather information?
It's definitely very helpful, because when I'm doing like homework or studying or something like that and I don't know a question, it's easy to just look it up and like, Google it. So I feel like there's like pros and cons to that, but more on the side of pros, like it just like it helps me further the studying.
All right,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. Which college classes do you think were made easier by online resources in the internet?
Pretty much all of my classes. I've had like both classes that require mostly all online, some that require absolutely none, and then ones that require like some. It's definitely easier to do the classes that the online textbook and like you turn everything in online, and like the other classes it's kind of harder to like just be prepared for like class, like when you do like notebook and paper, like I feel like that like makes it harder to do things.
So is there any like online tools that you find useful or helpful in completing schoolwork?
I hate to say it, but definitely in ChatGPT. I mean that not in like a cheating way, but like just like when you're writing like an essay and you get like a brain block, like it's easy to just look it up and get like ideas.
Yeah, that's mainly what I've used it too, and that's usually what it is. Like I don't use this to write the whole thing. Just like get like a prompt basically, just so I can start something.
Get ideas. That is so helpful. Doing that. I really in the last like year or so, I really haven't used anything else besides like ChatGPT. Like sometimes like I'll Google like if I have a question, but like mainly that resource just to like help further everything along.
All right, yeah. Do you find it easy to find reliable information online for school projects?
Yes, a good amount of times. Like I've been in both classes where like the professors will provide like all the resources that you need, and then other times like if I'm like completing like a worksheet or a task like and I have to look it up, it's easy to find the information. Like it's not like questions that are like made to be so that you can't look it up and research it.
Yeah, I've had like an easy time trying to find stuff too. Usually like I can tell like if something's like I don't usually use like Wikipedia or something, because that's like other people can do that. It's not like verified people really. So yeah, but usually I can find like .org or .gov stuff.
Yeah,
that's usually,
and there's so many like articles and like research like papers already online. Like it's like it just makes it a lot easier to like study and like complete like tasks at hand.
Yeah. The last question I have is, do you feel that some classes have become overly reliant on using online resources for teaching?
Definitely, I have seen it before. I feel like more so, especially when they're like completely asynchronous classes. Like they just like they'll throw you something online.
Yeah.
But then again, you kind of have to do it that way. And yeah, I guess other times, like some professors just lead it to like the articles that they like provide to help teach you.
Yeah.
So there is that.
Yeah, actually, the class I'm doing this for is asynchronous. So basically, and I think like for this one, like I have an idea because like the guy I'm working with, the professor, he basically gives me enough information, and he also is like available usually, so I can just I can just talk to him if I have a question or something.
Exactly.
There's other times too where it feels like I kind of wish I was getting more of like just a hands-on instruction type thing where it's like I wish someone I could just talk to like in person. But usually, most of the time, I'm able to just figure it out myself.
Yeah, exactly. Because I feel the same way. Sometimes I've had like teachers in the past who have like will only answer like questions like during class, like, and you can't like rely on getting like information like during office hours or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like that's annoying. But other than that, technology does make everything easier.
Yeah,
so.
I agree with that. Yeah. What I got out of this interview was how we were both exposed to technology in school at around the same time. We also saw how AI could be used as a beneficial tool to help through the our thought processes instead of using it as a cheap solution to our work. The other person I got to interview was Ms. Jennifer Ernest, an alumni of Bloomsburg University, and also a high school teacher at Warrior Run in Turboville. I thought it would be an interesting and unique perspective to discuss the topic with a former student and current teacher. So now I give you my interview with Ms. Ernest. So first question, what resources did you use when you were a student at Bloomsburg University?
Okay, so I started Bloomsburg University in 1997, and I graduated in 2002, and so I switched majors. So the resources that I used at school was the good old library. So the internet, it was dial-up at the time, so we didn't really use a lot of online resources.
Yeah.
So we did use databases. So there were a lot of databases for research, but most of all, it was like books at the library. So those were the resources that I used back then. We used Microsoft Office, of course. So we would complete a lot of our projects using Microsoft Office.
When do you feel that the internet started to become more ingrained and prevalent in schools?
So my first teaching job was at State College in 2002. Once I graduated from Bloomsburg University, I got a job right away. We really didn't use the internet that much. So it was not really until I came to Warrior Run in 2008, I would say probably 2010. Was when we really started using the internet more. Definitely, once COVID started, everything was online. So you didn't really use textbooks as often. They were online textbooks and all of those online resources.
That's at Bloom too. They're mainly you can find like online copies and they're usually cheaper because they have a what they call inclusive access textbooks where basically you can just get them online. But some you still got like because there's the place you can just pick up like other kinds of books if they don't if they're not like physical versions.
Right.
So that's basically what I've done. But mainly I've been using technology and all that, like just finding stuff online, but making sure like the sources I use are like verified in some ways, not just like .com or
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia. I mean, at times, like if I'm like trying to just get an idea for something, I'll look up stuff like that. But like I usually use like .org or .gov.
Right. Reliable sources.
Yeah, something that the teacher will be like, okay, it can see you actually tried to find something viable. Okay, so next question. What have been your experiences with using online resources for teaching?
I use online resources 100% of the time. Like in my particular classroom, I don't have textbooks. So last textbook we purchased, I want to say was maybe 2012 for my classroom. When I did Penn College Now courses, they were all online textbooks, but honestly, we don't really use them anymore. The content that I teach is career readiness. I do accounting, I do broadcast journalism, all that type of stuff. So a lot of the resources I use are online resources. So a lot of my classes, I have career readiness classes. So we use PA Career Zone, we use ONET Online. I also teach all about like the financial aid process. So we're using the FAFSA website, we're using College Board, we're using all of those other type of resources. One thing that's probably been a little difficult with regards to students using online resources is the whole AI. So that's kind of been a little bit difficult with regards to students using particular resources. Another good resource that I use because I teach resumes and I teach all of those other types of things. Yes, we use the whole Google Suite. We don't use Microsoft Office, but Canva's been really successful, especially when when you're like having students create projects and all of that other type of stuff. It's just a new way of creating projects for them that get them a little bit more involved in the process.
Yeah, I was going to say, are there any online tools that you've found useful for teaching and finding information while we can?
So another thing that with regards to online tools, one thing that's kind of helped as a teacher as a resource, not that you should use it as your only resource, like I said, was Canva, or not Canva, but AI. So Magic School has been like a game changer.
Right.
So when you're looking for projects for students to do, and you need to have a lesson plan, because every teacher needs to have a lesson plan if you get observed or whatever, like Magic School has been instrumental in creating you a lesson plan. And so you can go in there and say, I need a lesson plan. I want to teach resume writing. I'm using ONET Online for them to do their tasks. I want them to do a personal statement. It needs to be aligned with the career and work standards for 11th grade. It will go and create your entire lesson plan. So not that you should say, oh, create me a lesson plan on resume writing, but if you use it as a tool, it's been really successful. Problem that I see is students use it as write me, like for example, if they need to write a paper, they'll go to ChatGPT and say, write me a paper on the Cold War or something like that, and it will write a paper. Well, that's completely plagiarism.
That's just, you're basically just using it as like the solution just to like make it for me than rather me like putting in the work. Because it's like, because I was talking with Leanne and we were saying about how we both used ChatGPT, but it was more for finding ideas for like essays and projects than rather just writing the whole algorithm, just writing it out for you instead of actually putting in the work to create it.
And so that's also been something, since I do teach technology and I do teach like more hands-on skills, that's one thing that, it's kind of changing my whole curriculum is how do we teach students to use these resources like AI and all those other types of things to help them and be more as a tool as opposed to the end result.
All right, so the last question I had is, do you think that some teachers have become overly reliant on using online resources for teaching?
100%. And one thing, not only online, but for example, teachers will use sometimes teachers pay teachers. So, and I've talked to like supervisors that come in from Bloomsburg University who have students, that they're observing, and their whole entire lesson plan is a teacher pay teacher. Well, we want to kind of teach our teachers to be a little bit more creative and have those ideas and not steal someone else's. Yeah. It's nice to get ideas and stuff like that. Like, I'm not going to say that I've never used teachers pay teachers, but usually it's for like a sub-activity that maybe I wasn't there for. Like, for example, one of our teachers, he quit. So we had a sub for an entire month that had to come in and teach 5 different courses, so it was probably, it's been 10 years since I've taught marketing and intro to business and stuff like that. So the stuff that I have, the resources that I used were very dated. And so one thing that I did was, I went to Teachers Pay Teachers and got him a whole month's of lesson plans that he could teach, that were not something that he had to teach himself, but the kids were actively involved. So it was like March Madness. And so they did all of these marketing activities for March Madness. So I think Teachers Pay Teachers is a good resource, but when teachers use that as them being creative and their own thing, I think they rely too much on it. And especially some teachers will use like computer programs, just to teach their students, like IXL and those types of things, where those really shouldn't be what you use. They should be, as a supplement, and then you are still teaching. And a lot of kids like to take asynchronous classes because there's not that teacher-led instruction and they can work on their own, but then sometimes that teacher isn't really being creative. So
actually the class I'm doing this for is asynchronous, so but the teacher is like keeping us informed about what to do, and like he's open to questions, like if you have anything, because it's not like, and he does give instructions of what